Hello, my name is Dr. Shahad Debalanain and I'm the correspondent for MedEdge MEA at the 4th Emirates Pediatric Bone Marrow Transplant and Gene Therapy Congress, happening here in the vibrant city of Abu Dhabi. I'm very honored to be joined by Dr. Faulkner from Italy. Welcome, Doctor, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much.
How are you finding the conference so far?
Very interesting, yes. The nice thing about this conference is that it really sees a participation for very different people, professionals from different countries, different backgrounds, because UAE can be reached by many people, probably more than Europe or US. And so I think the potential for this meeting to get people together from very different backgrounds is the interesting thing.
Definitely. Yeah. It's not just a local event, it's an international get-together, and it's fascinating.
Truly international, because there are people from Africa, from Middle East, from Asia, which is something very that carries a lot of potential. Yes.
Now, Doctor, before we dive into sickle cell disease cure in Africa, can you kindly introduce yourself to our listeners?
Okay, so I'm a pediatric hematologist, oncologist, and transplant physician. I come from Italy, and I am the medical director of an Italian NGO that is called Cure to Children. That it was developed by a group of parents that lost their child to cancer. And I also consult for BKMS, which is a German organization. And I've been involved for the last almost 20 years in developing sort of accessible and cost-conscious transplant centers in middle-income countries in Southeast Asia, Middle East, and we also tried in Africa. Yes.
Amazing background, Doctor. Now, to start, can you give us an overview of the current landscape of sickle cell disease treatment and cure, specifically in Africa?
Yeah, so sickle cell disease, of course, in Africa is the most common non-infectious but potentially deadly disease of children. It's actually quite common. There are hundreds of thousands of children. So it's by far the most common severe disease curable by bone marrow transplantation. And it's not only severe in terms of mortality, but also in terms of quality of life. So in Africa, there are several countries in which bone marrow transplant services are being planned. There are a few that are active, one I think in Nigeria, one in Tanzania, and probably one in Kenya, of course Egypt, South Africa, but overall there is a problem with accessibility, because of course the problem with Africa, as opposed for example to India, is that drugs are more expensive because they are not produced locally. They need to be imported. And so there is the issue of additional costs for importation and sort of procurement. The lab tests are a bit, especially the ones that are specific for transplant, they're a bit more difficult to get to. The quality assurance is not always there, and then there is also issues with blood procurement, blood irradiation. These are all things that are necessary to set up a transplant center, and so it has in general been quite difficult to have centers that could be sustainable in Africa, because of course there is also the financial aspect, and one of the sort of things that I've been involved with, especially with DKMS, is to create a system that can support financially families of children with sickle cell disease who are interested in exploring bone marrow transplantation. And even though there are many patients, in general also, not many families will consider bone marrow transplantation, also because also some physicians in Africa don't feel that bone marrow transplantation is a realistic option or is a safe option, which of course nowadays a child with sickle cell disease with a matched sibling can expect a cure over 95%. So actually bone marrow transplantation is very effective, and it will improve healthy quality of life in most children. And but of course it requires a dedicated center, a dedicated team, which is often not easy to put together.
Right. And doctor, with gene therapy and curative treatments rapidly evolving now, how can you deliver those opportunities to patients in Africa? Especially, it's an area of high prevalence of sickle cell disease.
So of course gene therapy holds a lot of promise, no question about it. It's very interesting, but I think unfortunately it's not realistic because of the cost. Even bone marrow transplantation has been available now for 5 decades, but still the majority of patients in Africa, children, cannot access it. So gene therapy, I think, eventually will be probably even cheaper than transplantation, but I think there is a long way to go. For now, the cost is absolutely prohibitive. It's like over $2 million. Nobody can afford it, and we're struggling a lot even for transplantation, for which the cost is, at least in India, is between $10,000 and $20,000. So it's much less expensive than gene therapy. So gene therapy, of course, is very good to continue to develop it, but before it will be practically useful for children in Africa, I think it will take a long time.
Right. And you've highlighted the burden or the challenge of accessibility and the cost effectiveness and not being very much aligned to the situation in Africa. What other challenges are present currently with accessing or delivering gene therapies to children in Africa?
What other challenge? I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand.
Yeah, what other challenges are there in terms of delivering gene therapies to children in Africa?
Well, you see, first of all, gene therapy, at least as far as I'm concerned, is still experimental in the sense that, you see, bone marrow transplantation have been done, again, for over 40 years. So we know what to expect 20 years after transplant. We know that the risk of secondary malignancies, the impact on growth, development, fertility. These things are not totally clear with gene therapy. So, and I think still gene therapy is not indicated in young children who had a matched sibling. So even in rich countries in which gene therapy is available, a matched sibling is still the first choice for a young child with sickle cell disease. So, but the real problem is that gene therapy needs a very complex laboratory support and is essentially now offered by big biotech companies, and the cost is out. It's totally out of reach of the vast majority of people in Africa, and even very rich people in Africa would probably go for gene therapy in a rich country. They would not do it in Africa. So I don't think that for now and for the foreseeable future, I don't see how gene therapy can have an impact in children with sickle cell disease in Africa.
I think the biggest burden is the finances, and companies need to find a way to make it accessible to all different populations and not just to a specific group. So from your observation and experience, what do you think is the next measure that needs to be done or initiative to make such technologies or advancements accessible to children in Africa compared to the whole world?
I think the problem also is that we don't really, so gene therapy, of course, is something that is very interesting, is very promising, but also transplantation is improving very rapidly. So we are now, for matched sibling transplants, the risk of severe chronic GVHD is very low. Also, haploid, so the great majority of children don't have a matched donor, a matched sibling donor. So that the alternative is often a partially matched family donor. But even in that situation, we're improving a lot. So that I don't think that currently there are no studies that compare head-to-head haploidentical transplant, alternative donor transplant with gene therapy. So we don't really know what is better and also what is better in the long run. Of course, I also am convinced that eventually gene therapy will probably turn out to be better than bone marrow transplantation, but now we don't really know. But the bottom line is that costs will have to decrease exponentially to be realistically available in middle-income countries in general, not only in Africa. It will have to decrease by 100-fold, so that's going to take a long time.
Yeah. Thank you very much
You're welcome.
For highlighting this critical issue and the importance of tackling it to make sure that all healthcare technology is accessible to all children all over the world and not just to a specific population. Thank you very much for sharing your insights and experience, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much. Thank you.